I'm not crazy, you're crazy. Or at least you'd have to be not be subscribed to the Big Mayonnaise experience. So while I'm getting into this episode, why don't you go ahead and take a minute, hit that subscribe button, and definitely don't forget to like this video and keep up with the series. I've got so many theories and ideas rolling around my head about this game that I really can't keep them inside anymore, and instead of announcing these as I go, I thought it'd be really cool to do a whole 0.5 episode here where I basically just go through and talk about all the theories and ideas that I have about what's going on in this game. And so I've got a couple, we'll call them seed theories, right? And so those 3 seed theories are, is it all in Anton's head, right? Is this the culmination of some sort of mental illness, right? And the manifestation of some sort of mental illness, right? Is this just a hyperactive imagination just put into a bad situation? Is this something greater than that? Does he suffer from paranoid schizophrenia? Is this a multiple personality disorder thing? But there's also the idea that, they talk about a serial killer. Is there actually something real going on, and who would the serial killer be, right? And then on top of that, there could also be the idea of this being a local folklore mythological situation, right? We don't know. And so that's kind of what I want to dive in today, is what are the multiple aspects of those big 3 things going on. So let's start with idea number 1, right? Let's dive into the mental illness situation. Now, schizophrenia is defined by WebMD as a kind of psychosis, which means your mind doesn't necessarily agree with what's going on ahead of you, what's going on in reality. It can affect how you behave and how you think and how you perceive things going on around you. This condition can usually start in late adolescence or young adulthood. Now, Anton is a little young for this to be going on in his age. He hasn't even gone through puberty yet, but that doesn't necessarily rule him out of this situation. Some of the bigger symptoms behind schizophrenia are delusions, right? Hallucinations, things like this, which we've already kind of seen with, the dreams and those animals dancing out in the field, right? Where he grabbed the glove and was so sure it was blood on his hands and that it was soaked with blood. And then after he took a minute and calmed down, he realized that the glove was just wet with snow, right? There were so many situations where he perceived things differently than what they actually were. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's schizophrenia here. It could just be his anxiety, his overactive imagination. It could be many things. But this is just one of the symptoms that could lead down this path. There's also the idea of delusions of grandeur, right? Where you believe that things that you do have greater effects than they possibly could. For example, when he starts talking about finding Vova, right? He believes that he's going to get this huge reward and he's going to become famous, and his parents' divorce or his parents' marital issues are just going to go away, and everybody's going to be so proud and happy again. Now, this could just be the thoughts of a 12-year-old boy, right? Coming into things and thinking that he can do more than what he possibly can. And that's kind of the difficulty in this, is that he's so young. This could just be how he's thinking and not necessarily an actual mental illness. But a lot of these things are starting to line up. And we already know that Anton suffers from some sort of mental illness or some sort of disorder because of the pills that he has to take. Now, all we know about these pills is that they're black and yellow, right? Which doesn't necessarily mean anything. Any pill can be any color. But that being said, this could be something more. Is this just anxiety? Is this schizophrenia? Is he being treated for it, and maybe the medication is just not as strong as it needs to be? I believe this game takes place during Soviet Russia, and if that's the case, he may not be getting adequate medical treatment per the state. And that would be a whole different aspect of this. Are they now talking about negative aspects of universal healthcare within Soviet Russia? Maybe people are going undiagnosed and that's leading to bigger issues. And that kind of dives into the serial killer aspect of this, is why did Anton's family move so suddenly, right? He talks about how everybody was happy at the last house, and then all of a sudden they're here and they're unhappy. Did something happen? Does Anton suffer from some sort of psycho-induced rage where he gets in fights? Maybe he's killed people. We don't know. Maybe that's why they had to move out in such a hurry, is because Anton maybe accidentally killed someone and his family is now trying to cover it up. And his father wants to keep it under wraps as much as he can, to try to keep everything under wraps. And his mother just wants to get him help. And now there's this disconnect between the two of them. That seems very unlikely to me. But there is still the thought of, there's still the mention of a serial killer going around these parts. So could that be the dad? Could that be somebody in the family? Could that be somebody we know? I mean, we've met Paulina, who seems strangely too nice. And that's kind of my thought, is that Elisa just kind of comes out of nowhere and Paulina comes out of nowhere. And are these personalities that Anton has envisioned, or are they actual real people? So this could all be something that plays into Anton's mental illness. Or perhaps Paulina's grandfather or musical tutor is the serial killer, and she specifically targets children who are outcasts or new to town, people that nobody would really notice immediately if they went missing. Perhaps that's what she's doing, is she's luring Anton into a sense of security to bring her back, because she did seem weirdly eager and comfortable wanting Anton to walk her home when she knows nothing about this kid. This could just be kids being kids, But now all of a sudden she wants Anton to walk her home, despite not really knowing him. But she says that she wants to feel safe, but she doesn't know Anton. So this leads me to think that maybe Paulina isn't what she seems, and perhaps she is luring Anton away. And it's weird how Semyon said he was going to find Anton after class, but then he's nowhere to be found. Perhaps she is his brother, or perhaps she is his sister, or part of his gang, and her whole job is to just lure him away from the school so that he can get his ass kicked. I don't know. Maybe that's all it is, but we'll find out here soon. But then kind of diving into the folklore aspect of things, right, is you guys may not have even noticed this, but as Anton was running back into the house, he said something interesting. He mentioned that there were claw marks on the outside of the door, as if something had been trying to get its way in. And during his nightmare, he had mentioned that he heard clawing at the door as if someone was trying to break in. Maybe it's entirely possible that something is there. And if this is all in Anton's head, what's up with the owl that keeps spying on Olya? Is something more going on there? Perhaps they suffer of the same disorders and they're having separate hallucinations or separate delusions. It's entirely possible that this is genetic and it's running through the family, but I don't know. I'm assuming, and this is my truest theory here, is that they were suffering from financial issues back in the city, and that's why his family moved to this house. Is that after their grandmother passed away, she left them this house, and they decided to move away from their life in the city all the way out into this tiny town. Despite the mother's own wishes. Perhaps she suffered from all these hidden folklores and creatures of the night creeping up on her, and she no longer wanted to come back here. But because of the financial situations, the father forced them to move back here so they could at least have a free place to live. And now they're being haunted by all these mythological creatures that only target children coming into adolescence. They slowly lure children into the forest to become part of some sort of ancient sacrifice or something along those lines. And I'm sure that is what's going on here. And that the owl and the wolf are just premonitions of what is to come, and that these are the first agents of chaos that lure these children away. Or perhaps this mythological entity just exists on a different plane, and it seeps into the minds of children that wander around the forest, and it infects their minds and gets into their minds and slowly lures them away from their families. And perhaps that's what the dream is. And maybe maybe Olya is just too young to really differentiate between dreams and reality. And so when she's dreaming, she envisions this owl in her window. And it's a little strange that Anton's mother would sit there and hate for him to go out of the house, but then just be perfectly fine with him wandering to school in the early morning by himself through the forest, right? So I'm wondering if this portion where we've gotten to school is all just some sort of a dream, and if we're going to wake up before all this happened. I'm not so sure just yet. It does just seem really strange to me how, again, the mother would be so adamant about Anton not leaving the house, not wandering the forest alone, and then the very next day, go ahead and wander the forest all by yourself. I won't even wake up to say goodbye. And that would make sense as far as the mental illness aspect goes. And maybe that's a choice that's going to be coming up here, is choosing between following Polina or following Elisa after school, right? And that could be a whole nother aspect of this. Maybe there's multiple endings to this game that result from the decisions that you make here. Maybe if you follow Polina, it takes the serial killer route, and now you're involved in this whole crime conspiracy game. Or if you follow Elisa, you go after this whole mental illness / mythological thing where it infects the minds of children. And that would be interesting, because then that would be different takes on the game. No matter what direction you decide to go, you'll get a different story out of it. And that would be really interesting for replayability. So, anyways, that's all my crazy theories for today. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Maybe something more interesting than I even think about is going on. But please, guys, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, I'll see you back in the taiga forest.